that look like?
Hello, as she grabs her eyeball. Welcome, everybody.
It's been a long time since I've been
She's back, and your first view of her is bloop, bloop.
I got something in my eye. I also haven't worn makeup since like Clinton was president, so I'm like remembering what it feels like to have fucking mascara.
Wait,
on my face.
why were you dressing up for Clinton?
I wasn't.
Welcome back,
everyone.
It's good to have you back.
It's good to be back.
Everybody was here just being like, where the
I
hell
doubt
is
it.
she?
I doubt it.
That's totally true.
It's totally.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being here on Common Censored. I'm joined today by Eleanor Goldfield, and we've got some very important stories to get to. Not all of them upbeat, but you don't come to us for the upbeat. You come to us for the truth, right? Straight up truth.
A friend of mine says that every time she gets a Lee Camp in her mailbox, it's the harbinger of doom.
But it's the truth. Don't people want the truth? I don't understand.
Well, she obviously still gets your emails, so she must still want the truth. It's just that it's not like, hey, here are some tips on how to plant rosemary. Like, you're not that guy. You're the...
Well, you and I both have the problem where we're bringing the truth, and we're like, doesn't everybody want the truth? And like 70% of the world's like, no, shut up.
That's why we don't do parties very well.
No, I have not played a party in weeks.
Played a party.
I haven't played a party.
What does that mean?
Performed at a party.
You call it played? You don't play anything.
It's still called played for comedians.
Really?
Yeah, I played that. I played that venue. Yes.
Would you say I performed at that venue?
No, I played the gig.
You didn't play anything.
I played the gig.
You didn't play anything.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Jesus Christ. Okay, first of all, you had to turn this into Abbott Costello. Secondly,
just making a point.
Secondly, you're saying comedians are genuine artists?
No, I'm just saying. But if you're not playing an
We
instrument,
play gigs. That's what we do.
But you don't play.
How long have you known me? You never heard me talk about the craft?
The movie, or
I thought you were about to go. Is it a craft?
No, I know it's a craft.
Would we call it a craft? Would we call it an art?
I know it's a craft. It's an art. You're
I
an
thought
artist.
you were just basically farting into a mic.
Would you say
Why?
that Picasso played a canvas? No, you wouldn't say that. It's you fucking painted.
Because the guy was a hack. Okay, can we move on?
Wow. That's where I draw the line, sir.
All right. Let's get to the stories. Thanks for being here, everybody. The comedy portion of this episode is now over. But this is very exciting because not only do we have Eleanor Goldfield back, but as our first segment, we're going to cover her article in Truth Out that came out.
That's the only reason I'm here, actually.
It's the only reason I was able to book the gig. It's her article from Truth Out from today. Very scary and important article, but I'm glad we're
do not tell people how to plant rosemary.
True. But let's get into it. Let's dig into it. I'm gonna let you lead on this.
I guess it's easier that way since I wrote it.
Since you wrote the article, rather than interview you. Who were you channeling when you wrote this article?
So Eleanor, let me ask you, why an article?
Yeah. Worst questions ever asked in interviews.
FYI, if you ever interview someone, don't be like, so why a book? Why a movie? It's so
literally I've at least 3 to 5 times I've had the opening question be, so why a book?
I know people ask me about the movie. So why a movie? I'm like,
so the people
because I didn't feel like chiseling it into stone, you asshole. Okay. Oh, you have very nice little.
I know. I have a new layout.
I like it.
Yeah.
But God, so many things are new.
Not to be fresh, but you've got to lean forward to stay in frame. Okay.
Hi everyone.
All right. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is fucking horrifying. It's also kind of in line with where we're headed as a nation, towards the outright fascism that is always at the end of the neoliberalism trail. So, and this is actually the first case of its kind to find the defendants guilty of journalism, basically. Because what happened was that these 2 journalists in Asheville, who write for an alternative outlet there called the Asheville Blade, were arrested for being at an event, basically, where cops were trying to evict an unhoused encampment on Christmas, by the way. Jingle bells. And so these 2...
They were arresting unhoused folks on Christmas.
Yeah. That is the
Nice.
spirit of Christmas, if you're wondering.
Nice.
And so these two folks were arrested and continuously tried to identify themselves as press. Police totally ignored that. In fact, they arrested them because they were videotaping, and you can hear it on body cam footage. The cops go, "Let's arrest them because they're videotaping." By the way, totally legal in North Carolina to film the police. So even if they weren't journalists, which they still are, that would also still be legal. So they arrest them for being journalists and for covering this. They continuously say, "We're journalists. We have a right to be here, even though it's, past curfew at this public park," which, by the way, public parks shouldn't have curfews, but that's a thing that happens these days to keep people from sleeping there.
I know. I love the idea of this space is for everyone.
Yeah.
For 2 more minutes, get the fuck out of here. What do you get out?
So basically, they continuously try to let folks know, including the magistrate who has the job of booking people once police bring them in. Hey, we're press, we're press, we're press. Completely disregards that. Through every step of the legal process, their status as journalists was basically found wanting. And at this point,
their status as journalists was found wanting.
Yeah. And by the way, if folks are wondering, in the United States, you don't actually have to ever prove that. You don't have to have a press pass. You don't have to show some kind of identification that you work for like CNN, or you can just say like, "I am press. I am covering this story." It doesn't matter what kind of outlet. It doesn't matter. You don't have to show any kind of ID to a police officer in order to be safe from arrest when covering a story.
Right.
Legally speaking.
Legally, exactly that. And a press pass is it's not meant to be a legal form of identification. It's anyone can print a press pass and say you're press. And that's supposed to be allowed because the government doesn't decide what is and is not press. I mean, they're not supposed to.
Right. Which is kind of the point of this article, is that the cops, the magistrate, the judge have all decided that these two journalists, their names are Veronica Coit and Matilda Bliss, decided that they're not real journalists. And the magistrate actually said that. Are they real press? And so this is basically setting a precedent where law enforcement can just dictate who is and who is not press. And if you read the article, there's obviously a lot of things going on here. They already knew who these two journalists were, and they were afraid of this adversarial press. The Asheville Police Department had actually come out publicly and said that they were afraid of media scrutiny. They didn't like it. So this was something that
it's funny. We would prefer that our crimes not be shown to folks. If you could just we really don't like when our crimes are revealed like that. So could you stop filming, please?
And to answer your question, Robin, are they real press? That was the question that was asked by the magistrate when the cop came in to book specifically Veronica Coit. The cop goes up and she says she's press, and then the magistrate says, "Is she real press?" And at that moment, as Veronica points out, the magistrate and the cop could have decided, "Oh, fuck, oops," and not booked Veronica, but they didn't. And then it moved on to the judge, who Judge Hill found them guilty. And now they've appealed, and
guilty of what exactly?
So guilty of trespassing in a public park after curfew, which again, when you're press and you're covering a story, if anybody on here has ever been press at an event, like, you're allowed to stay and cover an action. So, like, for instance, when something's going on, like people were getting arrested at the Capitol, if you can say that you're press and you're covering a story, you were allowed to stay ahead of the police line because you're covering that story. I did something similar at the Capitol a few times. I was like, "Look, I'm covering the story for Free Speech TV. I'm allowed to be here." Okay. That's very common. And so technically speaking, they were supposed to be allowed to stay and cover this event. But of course, as they're lawyer pointed out to me when I spoke to him was that they wanted to do this on Christmas because they were hoping nobody would show up. And lo and behold, Veronica and Matilda were like, well, it's Christmas, but let's go. And that did not jive with the plans of the Asheville Police Department and their overlords, who want to make sure that the homeless are not seen or heard. And so this is a very terrifying precedent that has been set. And so I wrote an article about it. There was also a link in the article to the interview that I had with both Matilda Bliss and Veronica Coit on Project Censored that you can listen to as well.
Right. And let me just clarify something. The mainstream media has been horrified by this because it is a threat to their jobs as well. And they have stood up for their colleagues and demanded that all the charges be dropped, correct?
Absolutely. I heard that, oh my gosh, what is that penis wrinkle's name again? Guy on CNN, white hair.
Anderson Cooper.
Anderson Cooper has been up in arms over this whole thing. It's really touching to see. No, they don't give a shit. But I guess it's not surprising, and I write this in the article too, considering how they've treated Assange. If someone of Assange's status can't get a mention, then us lesser beings, us lesser journalists, have really no hope of finding solidarity within the confines of corporate media. And I mean, this is kind of the point, right? Because the corporate media, they're stenographers for the state, but you don't have a free press unless you have an adversarial press. The whole point of a free press is that you are allowed to call out the ruling powers. You are allowed to demand accountability. You are allowed to stand up and say, that's bullshit. I'm calling you on it. I demand accountability. That's the whole point of free press. You don't need free press when the press just agrees with everything the state does. Then that's, I mean, so this is a really, really fucked up step in that direction of basically, doing away with even a semblance of free speech in this country. And this is also, kind of talking more about the First Amendment. If folks have been to a protest in the past, 15 years, you might have seen oh, this is your free speech zone. They'd have little
legit says
tape
free
set up and it says
zone.
Free speech zone. And I remember once at Occupy, somebody had printed out a map of the United States and they showed it to the officer and they're like, sir, this is our free speech zone. But it's fucking true. They just decide this shit. And then if you disagree or you talk back, you're under arrest. And, if you resist that, all of a sudden you're resisting arrest. So it's the First Amendment means fuck all. And this in particular is a very, very terrifying step in the direction of just eradicating any kind of free press that we really don't have in this country.
And it's the creation of, just to get a pun in here, it's the creation of a brand new law, press passing. So,
I know. You know what? I want you to know that I did float that as a potential title.
Potential
did
title.
Not go with it.
I think it's good they didn't. I think people would be like, something about the press getting a pass.
I know, but I liked it.
So I'm going to put the link to that article, to that Truth Out article here in the comment thread, and I hope everyone will check it out, share it, let your friends see it, and hopefully we can raise attention, increase attention on this disgusting, aggressive attack on our freedoms, our liberties. We're seeing it in every different way. Someone asked about Assange, and I just thought I'd give a quick update that is unfortunately a bad one. The FBI appears to have reopened the Assange investigation, while many believe that we are at the cusp of the U.S. finally dropping the charges, which would immediately allow for Assange's freedom, dropping the extradition request, which would immediately allow for his freedom. But instead, we have found out that the FBI, this is reported by an outlet in Australia, has come to the ghostwriter that helped Assange write his 2011 book, and they were asking him for information. Now, he's refusing to give any information and calls what they're doing, repulsive. But it doesn't change the scariest part of this, which is why is the FBI even still investigating this when it all needs to be dropped immediately when they have nothing? I mean, it also goes to show how little they have, that they're still trying to find information. But anyway, I thought I'd give that update. So let's move on to what this debt deal, what this raising of the debt ceiling deal shows. And I've covered this fight over the debt ceiling a couple of times in the past few weeks, but mainly to say that it is bullshit theatrics. It is designed by the two-party system so they can have something to bicker over and then cut social spending, cut spending by this government to actually care for our citizens, those of us who need it the most. I mean, people who need $100 or $200 of food assistance a month desperately need that $100 to $200, which if you've ever been in like a Whole Foods covers about a head of broccoli. They desperately need that. And that's the type of thing that's getting cut. And this ridiculous political theatrical bullshit of the debt ceiling, the two parties come together and they pretend they're hashing it out. They just can't. Oh man, we can't figure it out. And then lo and behold, they always
I like
woe and behold, and then whoa and behold, they always come to the same conclusion that they can figure it out. They can come to a deal and shake hands as long as they don't cut any military spending and they cut tons of social spending. It's always the same. Isn't that fun, folks? Isn't that interesting how it always ends up to be the same every time they do this shit? But all right, so if you want to take it from here, here's an article from Stephen Simler. You don't have to read my highlights, but
I won't.
Just could you say it with like some like sadness, like I won't.
You won't?
I'll do that. That's what I'll do. If you say shit like that, I'll rub your face.
Well, no, I want to. Can I get the graph, please? It's so
Not with that
hard
attitude.
to find good help these days. How do I scroll on the?
Okay, everyone, just relax. It's right here.
Calm than you are. Well, so I mean, Stephen Simler does amazing work, but one of my favorite thing that he does are these graphs because, I mean, they just look. I'm a visual learner, okay? So this is just, the next time somebody says to you when you use the word empire to describe the United States, oh, that seemed a little strong, be like, just mention this to them. That the Biden McCarthy, which I find it funny that it's McCarthy because when I hear McCarthy, I'm like, oh, the House Un-American Acts Committee.
McCarthyism, yeah.
But so this agreement demanded spending cuts, but guess who's exempt? The Pentagon. And that's the largest Pentagon budget ever, which is exempt from any of these spending cuts. So from all of the other things that we spend money on, health care, social services, medical research, education, environment, conservation, civil projects, all of that shit hatcheted. What didn't was the $886.3 billion official Pentagon budget. Remember that there's a lot more to it than just the official numbers. That is totally safe. Also, what is totally safe is Ukraine aid. So aid to y'all and to us and to people who, need support or need health care or whatever the fuck, or like need clean water, that aid is just cut. But aid to Nazis in Ukraine is totally safe. I know everyone feels a lot better.
Thank goodness
about that. So rest easy. I think we were all concerned.
And of all the discretionary spending, so you've got the military discretionary spending, which is like 55% or more, maybe it's closer to 60% of discretionary spending by Congress is just military. But then of the remaining, 45%, 100 billion of that out of 700 some billion is also veterans healthcare. So again, that part is partially related to military and the harm that military does and the harm that our Pentagon does. So of the discretionary spending, you end up with this tiny little block that is everything else, like food stamps and all that stuff. And that's what they're gunning to cut, aiming to cut.
And also, as reported by the Lever. I like Lever.
I mean,
I know it's leverage.
Depending on how long we talk about this, I may Lever. I'll go with leverage. I'll go with leverage.
Good.
I mean, it wasn't great. It was okay. It was all right.
By the way, the Brits do say leverage.
Do they?
Leverage. Yes. Anyway, so
I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't know how I feel about a lot of British things, but that's a different story. So the debt deal includes provisions that expedite the construction of the Mountain Valley Pipeline, specifically a controversial fossil fuel pipeline,
which has been a huge ongoing fight to stop the Mountain Valley Pipeline. And if I'm correct, it was essentially stopped, which people were celebrating, and now it's restarted.
Well, so there were two, like, basically twin pipelines. There was the ACP, Atlantic Coast Pipeline, and that's dead. The MVP was never officially totally stopped. It's been, I mean, it's so behind schedule. It's cost billions more than it was supposed to. But it was never officially axed.
Yeah.
So basically, it would also attempt to block courts from hearing challenges to its legality. Nice.
I love that. Putting that in the contract. You can't even bring our legality into questions.
It mandates approval of the MVP. And sorry.
Everybody can sing to themselves for a few moments here.
Right. So the MVP would emit more than 26 coal plants worth of greenhouse gases. And the idea of stopping any questions to its legality is about the fact that it's been stuck in back and forth court arguments for a long time about whether they have the right permits, whether this was allowed. They dumped toxic fracking chemicals over here. What's going on with that? Like, there has been a lot of amazing work that's been done on the front lines, both in the courts and literally on the front lines of blockading, tree sits, and all of that. There has been amazing work that's been done to stop MVP by folks in most specifically Virginia and West Virginia. The pipeline would be going through West Virginia, and North Carolina. Folks in North Carolina have also been doing amazing work. So this has been ongoing for years, and nestled within this debt deal that not only slashes funding to everything that we need and care about and make sure that Ukrainian Nazis and the Pentagon gets all of its money, it also makes sure that these dirty energy projects will move forward.
And in case you need reminding on just how much is spent on our Pentagon, we spend more than the following 9 countries combined. We spend more than the bottom 144 countries combined. We spend, when you count the black budget, over $1 trillion a year. And meanwhile, of that trillion a year, the Pentagon can't account, their own words, for over half of their assets when they are audited. So it is just a giant money laundering scheme, dumping trillions, literally trillions of dollars into the pockets of the biggest sociopaths on the planet. And that is our military. And that's the funding that can't be touched when they are just discussing where are we going to get the money from to deal with the debt ceiling? What are we going to do? Never once do they talk about cutting corporate taxes, closing tax havens, cutting the tax. I mean, not cutting corporate taxes, increasing corporate taxes, cutting the tax loopholes, and increasing the taxes on the richest people in the world. Never is that discussed. Instead, we need to cut the $100 of food assistance that the poorest of the poor in this country get.
And as I understand it, basically, so there are ongoing fights regarding the Mountain Valley Pipeline that are currently in court. So, for instance, in April, the Supreme Court revived a challenge by Virginia landowners objecting to the pipeline's expropriation of their land, ruling that their lawsuit could proceed in a federal district court. But again, I'm reading from the lever.
The lever, the lever.
The debt,
Isn't that a soap?
The debt ceiling deal, if passed by the Senate, would provide immediate congressional approval of all remaining permits and authorizations needed for the pipeline project and could prevent courts from hearing further challenges to them. So it basically...
Jesus Christ.
Like, imagine just getting all of your fucking permits in a debt relief bill. Like, what the fuck? Like, this is how twisted. This should have nothing to do with a pipeline in fucking Virginia and West Virginia, North Carolina. This should have absolutely no play. But tucked in there, shoved in there, they just decided, well, we got to put this in there because, the powers that be, our overlords who pay for us to be here in these seats of Congress, want to make sure that this pipeline goes through. So we're just going to go ahead and put this through, and everyone else is looking the other way, worried about the debt ceiling. No one's going to notice.
Somewhere in there, it probably says, oh, and in the fine print, also Joe Manchin gets a fist job every Tuesday or something. Like they just put all this shit in there, and then they go, well, we raise the debt limit. Why is it debt? What is it? It's nothing. It's made up. The U.S. prints all the money we want. There is
well, and for every dollar we print, we go into more debt.
Yeah,
it was like $1.05 or something.
Yeah, 5% essentially debt on every dollar, so it can never be paid back.
Right.
It's physically impossible. Are we good? And scene. And scene.
I'm gonna leave her.
To you. I'm gonna leave her to you. What was did we already highlight this one as well?
I mean, I mentioned it.
Yeah.
I didn't wait for you to highlight it. I'm sorry. I'm a little rusty.
I think we need a stage manager is what we need.
Well, you're used to doing this all by yourself where you're the only one talking, and then so you know exactly when to bring in the images and everything. But
okay, I don't do karate chops.
It wasn't a karate chop. It was the moving of the gears of the live stream.
The live stream gears.
The live stream gears.
Was it yesterday, 2 days ago? I played the clip of Senator Ted Stevens saying the internet is a series of tubes. It's not a big truck. And
what?
That's kind of like what you just did.
What about a truck?
The live stream gears are all connected. And you don't remember this famous quote from, it was early 2000s, and the Senator Ted Stevens, and it just showed how the Congress people have no idea what the internet is. And so now they understand what the internet is, but now they don't know what AI is. So it's like they're always 10 years behind. They always have no idea what's going on. But anyway, in this long quote, he's like, you got to understand the internet it's not like a big truck that can just keep driving with as much stuff. It's a series of tubes, and when the people they fill the tubes with their things, and then you try and send an email, it doesn't get there for 3 days because it's all stuck up in the tubes. It's amazing. It's an amazing quote.
Oh,
I'm surprised you don't know that one.
You know what? Maybe I did at the time, but that reminds me of when they were having the TikTok hearings, the thinly veiled attack on China.
I played that clip
where
too.
the guy's like, "So does TikTok use the internet?" And the guy charged with answering the question was like, you just see this look on his face, like for a split second it passes through. He's like, these fucking idiots. I just can't.
I think what was passing through his head was maybe I could kill myself right now. I wonder.
How do you even answer those questions? I don't.
Well, he goes. It was like, does TikTok use the Wi-Fi, use the internet? And he's like, I think the answer is yes. I gotta get back to you. I don't know what you're asking. Okay, so let's move on to another. I mean, honestly, like the theme, other than the debt ceiling topic we just covered, the theme of this episode seems to be the rise of the fascist state.
Isn't that
because
kind of the overarching theme of every live stream?
Maybe it is. Maybe it is. But this is about the arrest of bail fund organizers in Atlanta and setting yet another dangerous precedent. This is so most of you understand that, like, a lot of people in these situations, such as with Cop City in Atlanta, where they're building a 100-acre urban warfare training zone that they're also going to use for Hollywood. So, you know, you can have Ryan Reynolds run around with a gun, and then the next day you can have a cop learn how to kick in the head of a 2-year-old. You can have both those things going on at once. What a great place. And knock down a forest all at once. It's wonderful. So that's what they're fighting against. And these people get arrested. Some of them got arrested under terrorism charges for putting up flyers, trying to call to account the cops who had done some of this stuff. And when these people get arrested, others work to get the bail money for them and to get them out of prison as soon as possible. I don't know if you want to talk any more about that, or I just jump to the story. But.
Yeah, I mean, there are bail funds in, well, basically every state that allows bail, that has bail funds where folks, community members put in money to a bail fund so that when people are arrested, they don't have to rot in jail or in solitary confinement like people do, because we have debtors' prisons here.
Yeah, and we're also one of the only countries that actually have cash bail.
Yeah, because it dictates that if you're poor, you rot in jail.
So if you are the fascist state, if you are these pathetic police officers, you want to stop the activists that are calling you out. You want to stop the people that have revealed who did what, the assassination of one of those tree sitters as well, and forest offenders. And you want to go after those who are raising bail funds. So they went in to arrest bail fund organizers, setting in many ways a new and horrible precedent, at least in recent years. Officers from the APD, the Atlanta Police Department, and Georgia Bureau of Investigations raided an activist house in southern U.S. city of Atlanta on the morning of May 31st. During the raid, the officers arrested 3 members of the Atlanta Solidarity Fund, a nonprofit organization that provides support for people who are arrested at protests or prosecuted for movement involvement, by way of jail and legal support and accompaniment, bail funds, and helping provide access to representation. All very important things. And before I continue with this article, I want to show you, and thanks for finding this video, Eleanor. I want to show you how exactly they arrested these bail fund organizers who are unarmed activists doing, you know, the work of raising funds to free people from prison. This is how they arrested them.
That's how they showed up at their house. I mean, it's not a long video because that's all you need to see right there is...
Well, and they probably didn't allow cameras inside or anything.
Well, no, and this person's obviously like a neighbor or something. If I was a neighbor, I wouldn't want to fucking walk downstairs and over that van. I mean, I'd be like, no, I'm over here.
But let's send the full military essentially in to attack these people. Very similar to what was done to the Uhuru movement.
But this is another example of, like, you know, when you got it flaunted, the fact that, you know, via the 1033 program and the fact that our police are way overly militarized, if you have these big fancy military toys, you're going to want to use them, you know, like, so the next time you call a cop and because your cat's up a tree, they're going to, you know, send guides in fucking riot gear and shoot your cat with an AR-15 because they have it. I mean, so why not use it? Same thing here. Well, we've got this shit, and also, we want to make a point. We want to make a point to all the activists watching this that this is what's going to happen to you. You're going to have a SWAT team show up, or one on an MRAP. Sure, that'd be fun. We're going to send an MRAP to your fucking door because you dared raise money for bail. Yeah.
Utter insanity. To give you a little more background, the 3 arrested, Marlon Counts, Adele McLean, and Savannah Patterson, were booked into Cobb County Jail, charged with money laundering and charity fraud. Does that sound like what they were actually doing, or do you think they were getting people out of prison?
Can you imagine, like, Hillary Clinton being arrested for charity fraud for the Clinton Foundation? Like, can
or
you
the
imagine?
Gates or the Gates Foundation?
Right? Like, what a wow.
Yeah. The accusations leveled at the activist arrest warrant alleges they were misleading contributors by using funds collected through a state of Georgia registered 501c3 network for strong communities to fund the actions in part of Defend the Atlanta Forest, a group classified by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security as domestic violent extremists. That's right. The Defend Atlanta Forest, which is a bunch of people sitting in trees trying to stop the trees from getting chopped down. And then one of them was shot dozens of times and murdered by said police. And then the autopsy showed that the person who was murdered was sitting on the ground with their hands up when they were shot all those times. But the violent extremists are the ones being shot.
Yeah, and in a hearing today, a bond hearing that just happened a couple of hours ago, Unicorn Riot was posting about it. The Georgia Deputy Attorney General John Fowler is claiming that the three organizers harbor, quote, extreme anti-government and anti-establishment views. Or is it thought crime because we're not allowed to believe that the government's a shit heap?
Is that your point? Is that illegal to have anti?
Like why bring that up unless you feel that harboring those views or being outspoken about those views is somehow illegal or should somehow dictate that these people are guilty before being proven so? And I mean, if you even
if it were exactly what they said, even if it were extreme anti-government and anti-establishment views, meaning even if it were extreme, even if I was like, whoa, you are very anti-government, it's still fucking legal. It's still legal.
Supposedly. But this whole bond hearing, I mean, and if you all have ever sat in on a courtroom, like when activists are involved, it is just a shit show of kangaroo courtroom.
Yeah.
People asking what that means and what this means. And I'm sorry, I don't understand why. It's just a complete fucking mess where people
they're
act
told
like
they
idiots.
can't. They're told they can't speak. They're told they can't. If they make any noise like cheering when an activist says it makes a point, the judge freaks the fuck out.
But Fowler was also trying to get them on shit that happened 3 years ago. So, for instance, he said they raise funds to support violence. So far, he's referring to the 2020 George Floyd protests and to protesters who were allegedly engaged in property destruction. But he never actually could link that to these defendants. And also, that's not a part of this case anyway. So how can you bring that up? Like this deputy attorney general is just like trying to throw shit at them that has nothing to do with what they're supposedly in court right now to discuss. And
which is kind of the definition of a criminal justice system that has become wholly and fully corrupt. You arrest the people you want to stop from activities, whether it be activists, media, whatever. You arrest them, and then you just try and find something. Let's see if we can find something that will get them locked up.
And Fowler also refers to documents found in the home and claims that a diary found in a, quote, trash pull included this quote, radicalizing liberals using subversive materials without encouraging state solutions, end quote. That sounds great to me. But he's using it as like example, these people are terrorists.
Again, is that illegal? Radicalizing liberals? Is that illegal?
No, I didn't think so. But here we are. And he's bringing it up like they were like, here's how to make a pipe bomb.
Right.
What the fuck?
The national director of the Answer Coalition, Brian Becker, told People's Dispatch that, quote, these charges are a clear and obvious violation of core constitutional rights to free speech. If police forces in Georgia succeed in their atrocious assault against those engaged in dissent, it will become a model for ramped up repression by police forces all over the country. The stakes could not be higher.
And by the way, one of the folks arrested has medical conditions and has apparently been kept in solitary confinement without access to necessary medical devices or medicines. then the bond has been set for each of them at $15,000, which is
too high. Zero.
I'm going to say too high.
I'm going to say too high.
Which again, this is what's so fucked up. You have not been proven guilty of anything. You've been arrested under suspicion of something. Okay, the next court date is set for blah, blah, blah. Okay, go. That's how this process should work. Go. Okay, they had to hand in their passports. All right, whatever. I'm not going to go to fucking Canada. Whatever. I don't even know if you need your passport to get to Canada, but that's not the point. Like,
I think you do if you go the legal ways.
This should be the concept.
If you wade up to your knees and just walk out on the beach, then you can get there without a passport.
This should be how it works. The idea that I have to pay $15,000 to be freed when I'm still innocent under the law. What in the blue fuck kind of legal system is that?
Right. The percentage, I don't remember the numbers, but the percentage of people in U.S. prisons and jails who are technically still innocent, and I don't mean they claim to be innocent. I mean that legally speaking, they have not been found guilty of anything. Right. It's a crazy percentage. It's a whatever it is, I forget, but it's much higher than you think it is. A lot of the people in our ridiculous largest prison state on the planet are innocent under the law, and that's not including those who are innocent and were convicted anyway. But yeah, largest prison state in the world, and this just goes along with that horrific system.
Yeah.
So let's try and all support them as they continue their fight. All right, so we're gonna do the rest of this live stream. We still have at least one or two stories coming up, and we're gonna do the rest of that at rumble.com/LeeCamp. Sorry, yes, rumble.com/LeeCamp and LeeCamp.net, my locals page. Those are the two places where this will keep live streaming, so I hope you will join us there. If you become a member at LeeCamp.net, you will get all of the live streams in perpetuity for as long as you want, whereas for others, they will disappear after a few hours. However, there will be many clips put out on the various channels. But also, if you become a member, you get my new ebook, Dangerous Ideas, for free. So check that out. But all right, this will continue at rumble.com/LeeCamp. That's rumble.com/LeeCamp. Head on over to rumble.com/LeeCamp.